Hi guys, and welcome to today's session. I am Gilles Brito. I am a psychotherapist, coach, and hypnotist that lives and works in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. And the purpose of getting together today is to do a little short course on how to build rapport with anyone. Now, in this presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about why it is, what is rapport and why is it important, as well as some of the 5 key elements of rapport. So we can match modality, we can do some physical mirroring, we can match the voice, match the breathing, and match the chunks of information. But let's start off with the first question. Why is it important to build rapport? Now, as you know, whenever you're in rapport with someone, it helps make them feel comfortable. It's like, man, that person's just like me. And actually, that's at a subconscious level. It's that the subconscious mind perceives the person as being just like you. And so that there's a level of comfort that could be achieved actually quite quickly. Now, why is that important in meeting anybody? And then why is that important in counseling? Well, in meeting anyone, if you have some of these skills and techniques or technology, then you're able to help the other person feel comfortable and more apt to open up to you. Why is it important in a therapeutic environment is that it's a skill to make the person that's coming in feel very, very comfortable. And so when they feel comfortable, they're much more likely to open up and then are much more able to get to the resolution of the difficulty. So you can see it's very useful in a bunch of different platforms. So the first thing that we're going to look at is match the modality. Now, this is a very poor model of a set of eyes, but this is, of course, when you're looking at a person. Now, the first modality we're going to bring up is visual. Now, I'm often asked, does this help people look at lying? And I got to tell you, one of my favorite TV shows, unfortunately, was canceled, but it's still available on Netflix, is Lie to Me. It's just awesome because he's able to read facial and body micro expressions. Now, it's not that advanced technology here. Mine is more when a person has a tendency to look up or they glaze over dead center, so like this, so you can almost wave your hand in front of their face, then it just simply means that they're in pictures in their mind. So if you want to kind of play along with me here, I want you to just get nice and comfortable and relaxed. And I want you to think of the home that you lived in when you were 16. And what was immediately on your right when you entered your bedroom when you were 16 years old? Now, chances are your eyes drifted up just for a second before they looked back at the screen. Or your eyes, like I said before, are glazed over dead center. And all that is a reference to pictures in your mind. Now, again, I'll get to the point where this is useful and how you could use that with matching the person's modality. Now, when your eyes move side to side, that's when you're in auditory. So a good task for that is, I want you to think of the last person you talked to on your phone. What did they say specifically to you? So know that when you were thinking about the person, your eyes might have drifted up. Oh, I talked to my mom last on the phone, and what did she talk? Oh, we talked about my son or whatever. Okay? So again, you might drift up initially to see the person's face, but then when I asked specifically about dialogue and what they said, chances are you would have referenced either right or to the left. Okay? Next, I can't mimic this one so much, but the next one is auditory digital. That's when you're looking at someone and they're looking down to my right. So in their head, it would be looking down and to the left. I'm sorry if that complicates things, but again, this is when you're looking at the person that they look down and to the right. That just means that they're processing the information in their head. So that could be that they're replaying a conversation that they had, or they're actually telling you what you want to hear. So that's not the same as lying, but sometimes I catch my clients often in this bottom quadrant because they worry about what my interpretation is going to be. So they tell me what I think they want to hear. That happened a lot with youth, that they would tell me what they think I would want to hear. And so I often reframe them that I want you to just be honest and not just tell me what I want to hear. I want you to tell me how you feel, or tell me what you think, or whatever it may be for that person. And I'll get back to that in a minute. And the last quadrant is kinesthetic. So kinesthetic is connected to body, connected to emotions. So a kinesthetic person, if you ask them how they felt, it would be appropriate to ask them to do so after they've referenced down and to your left. Again, in their head, it's down and to their right. Okay, so how do we use this when talking to someone? Well, if a person has a tendency to look up, then I could say, so it looks like things have changed in your world. Can you give me a little bit of a description of what that would seem like or look like for you? So notice the visual language that's peppered through that little question. It's all around what do they see. Now, the ones that are much more auditory, they reference side to side. So for them, it would be, does that sound like something that would be appealing to you? Can you tell me what that sounds like? And obviously, if they look down, and oftentimes that's kind of the default setting if you're a counselor, is tell me how you feel about that. Now, again, that's very appropriate if they're referencing down a lot. Know also that if they are referencing down a little bit more, I have a tendency to slow down my cadence. Because people that are connected to body often are met with a hodgepodge of emotions. So I just let them process their emotions a little bit more. So if you live with a partner who's much more kinesthetic, it may be that they have a tendency to talk a little bit slower. And if you're a visual partner, that would drive you bananas because it seems like, man, just tell me what's going on. Like, I really want to get my words out. Now, no, a person that's visual have a tendency to talk very, very quickly. They may also have a tendency to interrupt because they have so much information to get out that they want to get that out to you as quickly as they can. The next one is physical mirroring. This is actually where you mimic the person in front of you. So here you can copy their posture, their facial expression, their hand gestures, their movements, even their blink rate. Now that last one is if you are really, really gifted at this. But copying their posture. And oftentimes when I teach this to professionals, the question that I get most often asked is, what if I get caught? A lot of times what happens, especially when you get good at this, is you just do it naturally. So when you're mirroring a person's posture, it's not like as soon as they move their hand, you move your hand up at the same time. You just wait a couple seconds. You keep it kind of casual and you just kind of mirror them. I just notice that when I lean forward, my clients lean forward. When I lean back, I have a tendency to lean back as well. Now, one of the interesting things is when I kind of learned this technology, I was actually having an argument with my significant other. And I just did these key components of this physical mirroring. So she would, pick up a fork, and very soon after I'd pick up a fork, she would raise a glass of water to her mouth. I would do the same. And I left lots of space for her to process because she was dealing with a lot of emotions. And what she said at the end of the meal is, geez, I've never felt more connected to you. And all I thought in my head was, holy cow, it actually worked, which is kind of interesting. But what this really does is it lets your subconscious mind to say, wow, they're just like me. And you're much more likely to take advice or follow somebody who's just like you than unlike you. Okay. Now, next is around your voice. So you can match their tone, their tempo, the quality of their voice, the volume, and sometimes you can even match keywords. So if a person uses like a lot, I have a tendency to use a similar word. So if they talk like this with lots of like, I might increase my frequency of saying like, just to create that rapport. Now also know that you have to really match it based on your environment. And what I mean by that is if you're working with a young person who's using more slang term and you're, trying to rap with them in the same way, I'm going to get you on the down low and stuff, it's going to seem really inappropriate and inauthentic. So always be respectful here. So the other things around tone and tempo, obviously, if a person is talking a lot more slowly like this, I'll have a tendency to more want to match them at the same rate than going at this cadence. That may feel overwhelming. Similarly, if a client comes in and they're talking a little bit lower because they're shy or whatever, it's inappropriate, or I can really break rapport if I come in and go, hey, how's it going? So all these things, again, says to the subconscious mind, man, they really, really get me. The next one here is around matching their breathing. So here you actually pace someone's breathing by breathing at the exact same time as them. Actually, I use this when I do a presence activity with my couples. When you learn to breathe in sequence with someone, it's very, very difficult to stay angry at them. So it's actually a technique that I do with my couples when we work together, which is really cool. But here I've matched people, let's say, with anxiety and matched their breathing, recognizing that I wanted to help them get out of that state very quickly. So matching their breathing is another one that's also very, very useful. The last one is matching the chunk of information. So you may have someone who likes to deal with big picture stuff. So it's kind of like they see like a completed project instead of all the minute details of getting there. And so you may have worked with someone who's into big picture and you get really incensed because you really are interested in detail. Oftentimes when I give presentations to people, some people write notes feverishly. They're more detail oriented, whereas other people couldn't even care less if I gave them a handout. Not that they are not interested in the topic, just that they deal more with the big picture. Like, how am I going to use this in my everyday life without getting so caught up with the details? Now, if a person is really into details, if you don't give them enough information, it can often lead to anxiety, and same thing, a breaking of rapport. So again, with the presentation is if I'm going through something very, very quickly and I'm not giving them PowerPoint or information that they kind of can grab onto and leave with, they may feel overwhelmed because it's like, how am I going to remember everything that they said? Because every single piece of information might be useful in the coming week. So all this is still, like I said before, around making the person not only feel comfortable, but making them feel at a subconscious level that they're just like me. So that's it. Just a kind of a brief little lesson on rapport and the importance of rapport, of building up with anybody that you meet. So thanks so much for joining me today. I'd love to hear from you as usual. Any comments, questions, likes at the bottom of the page. I'd love to hear from you. And with that, thanks again for joining. Have a wonderful day.